Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. In segment number 2, we're going to be chatting with one of our good friends, Matt Joseph. So you know him better as Mid-Major Matt. Does a great job with Ariel Epstein's Prop Queen website, the Prop Queen podcast as well. He's going to be joining me. We're going to be taking a look at the overall outlook of the playoffs. Did have to do this before we got a final in terms of Mariners versus Tigers, because I do have to have this up at midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and the Tigers and the Mariners were playing into the wee hours in the a.m. if you're out there on the East Coast, so that made things a little bit difficult, but we're certainly going to be diving in on the landscape of who the Blue Jays would rather face, how they fare, because he thinks that they should be feeling very good whether they go up against the Tigers or the Seattle Mariners. So we're going to be talking about their dominance. We're going to be talking about the Dodgers, who would they rather face between the Cubs and the Brewers. We're certainly going to be taking a look at that game number 5 between the Brewers and the Cubs, and then I do give you picks and analysis on that Brewers versus Cubs game number 5 in the final segment as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, the mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And while I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. With EdgeBoost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to EdgeBoost.bet, make sure you utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at what we saw in a very crucial Game 5 between the Tigers and the Seattle Mariners, as we can give you guys a recap of that and take a look at the trends that we're seeing this postseason.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Well, when the total is 5.5, the under is 2-0 this postseason. The Tigers, they've fallen 15 innings to the Seattle Mariners by a count of 3-2. Drake Skubal did his part, gives up 1 run in 6 innings, 13 strikeouts. Kyle Finnegan from there gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, as it was Mr. Rivas who was able to drive in a run off of him. From there, Tyler Holden out of the bullpen scoreless, and these bullpens were really good. Captain Jack Flaherty did give up 3 walks in the extra innings, but he had 2 scoreless innings. Kadir Montoto was not Montoto Bull, 2 scoreless innings. Bull Vest, 2 scoreless innings. Troy Melton, a scoreless inning, and Tommy Canley, he gives up the RBI single to Ore Polanco in the 15th inning, who did take Drake Skubal deep twice in that game number 2, as he gets the job done. And for the Tigers, they strand 10 men on base. They didn't get much going off of George Kirby, who gave up 1 run in 5 innings. From there, Gabe Speier does give up a home run in 2/3 of an inning. He inherited a runner, and then Gary Carpenter took him deep for his second and last of the postseason. Logan Gilbert out of the bullpen, 2 scoreless innings. Matt Brash, 2 scoreless innings. Andres Munoz, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Edward Bazardo, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. That's to be his long experience of the year. And Luis Castillo had to come into this game. He gave 1 1/3 innings scoreless as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, they were the underdog in this game. They were able to cash, and what we have been seeing here in the postseason, if you take a look at the last 7 days, has been just a little bit of a hodgepodge in general. The favorites are just 7, 8, and 1 on the money line. I throw in there the 1 because there was one pick'em game along the way. Home teams now 10 and 6 on the money line over the last 7 days, and we have seen the over be 10 and 6, but this is a game that very much went under the total. So that's what we're seeing trend-wise in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we saw in a very exciting game number 5. It will be the Seattle Mariners taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. We had to do this interview with Matt Josephs prior to knowing the final of this game because this one went on very, very long, but we'll certainly be talking about the Blue Jays' chances. We'll take a look at that game 5 between the Brewers and the Cubs, the LA Dodgers, their dominance, and so much more on the flip side right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got mid-major Matt Josephs joining me. He does great work with the show Border to Border over at ESPN Radio in Richmond. He does a great job with the Prop Queen show/podcast. He does a great job on the website as well. He's taking a look at some college football, getting set for college basketball. Does a great job with baseball and so much more. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at mid-major Matt all together. And Matt, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And Matt, we do have ourselves a lot of intrigue with a Game 5 coming up on Saturday between the Brewers and the Cubs. Now, these two teams did not do us a solid, as right now, as we are recording this, we do not know who the starters are going to be for either team. We know that for the Brewers, it's going to be some sort of bullpen game, and right now it's all about Shota Imanaga or Colin Ray for the Chicago Cubs. But how do you take a look at this Game 5? And with regards to Cubs, would you rather see Imanaga or Ray on the bump?
I would rather fade Imanaga in the early innings in terms of looking at a first 3 or a first 5 bet. I was reading on Twitter that Jesse Rogers, who covers the Cubs for ESPN, is saying that it's probably not going to be Imanaga on the is starting. He could be available in the game and could pitch in the middle innings, but he will not be the starter. He also said it will not be Cade Horton, who is not ready yet. It all seems to be that it seems like it's going to be Colin Ray and then Johnny Holstaff, a.k.a. pretty much anybody and everybody that they can figure out.
Yep, and I do think that that's really going to be the case for both of these teams, because then I take a look on the flip side for the Milwaukee Brewers, and you'd have to think that Jacob Mizorowski is going to be seeing some bulk innings for them, and that's a very intriguing situation with this Milwaukee Brewers team, because they've had a very rock-solid bullpen all season long, and it feels like a team that is a little bit more, shall we say, apt to figure it out than the Chicago Cubs in a bullpen game.
Yeah, and they have options, and you kind of look at the other starters. I mean, I guess you could go to Quintana if you needed to. You could go to Quinn Priester, who wasn't very good. I guess the good thing about not using your starters for very long in this series is that they could be available out of the bullpen. But, Mizorowski is interesting because, he already has seen this series. He already had the 3 innings where he had 4 strikeouts. So, if you start with Mizorowski, I feel like there's a chance he could go 4 or 5 innings if he looks good. The downside is if he pitches like a rookie and he's not lasting very long, then you're going to have to cover more innings. But I think you have to start the game with him. That way he could be mentally ready and kind of start assessing things and not have to worry about am I getting up here? Am I getting up here?
Yep, I think that is so important as well. And when it comes to Jacob Mizorowski, has been very good in small doses, but when you try to extend him a little bit, that's typically where things have been getting a little bit hairy. As joining me on the show, we do have Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt, and right now, sight unseen, the Brewers are about a -130 favorite with a total of 7.5. Is there anything that you're looking at as of right now with this game, or does it really depend upon whether or not we get Imanaga or Ray starting for the Cubs?
Well, if there's an Imanaga start, then I'm going Brewers for the first 3 innings because I just feel like they'll be able to attack him very well in this game. If it's Colin Ray, I don't think Colin Ray's that impressive anyway. And remember, this Milwaukee offense, as we've talked about many times on your podcast, they're so much better at home. And so I feel like it doesn't really matter who the Cubs might start. I'm probably going to look at the Brewers in the first 3 innings, maybe a team total over as well. I'm sure the books are kind of waiting on all that sort of stuff to see what kind of starting pitchers you're going to get. But there's nobody that the Cubs could announce short of Greg Maddux in his heyday that would not make me think that the Milwaukee Brewers are something I'm going to play in this game on Saturday.
Yep, I think that is going to be an intriguing game to say the least, as I cannot remember a Game 5 or a deciding game in which we had more mystery around the starters. I'm not sure if you have any recollection of that as well, but it just feels like such a strange situation in this Cubs versus Brewers game number 5, because typically you know exactly who's going to be starting, and with both of these teams, you sort of toss up your hands right now.
Well, and the funny thing is for the Cubs, especially, like you're not going to have this grade A starter that's going to be out there. Maybe the Craig Counsell's sitting there saying, all right, this is what my game plan is going to be. I'm going to go with this guy for 3, this guy for 1, this guy for 2. And he's telling all his pitchers and getting everybody ready. It is funny that we still don't have, a game plan because, the Brewers are studying Imanaga. They're studying Colin Ray. They're studying some of the relievers and they're trying to figure out themselves. They're probably trying to guess what the Cubs are doing while the Cubs are probably trying to guess what the Brewers are doing. The Brewers at least have the easier side of things because they have the better pitchers that they're going to use most likely.
Yep, and I do think that is going to be an incredible game number 5 and what we're going to be seeing out there in Milwaukee as Mid-Major Matt, aka Matt Josephs, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And with the Toronto Blue Jays, as we do this podcast right now, they await the winner of Tigers versus the Seattle Mariners. We're doing this as it's a little bit TBD on the result of that because it was a late night game. But if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, who would you rather face between the Tigers and the Mariners?
Well, certainly you'd rather face Detroit because Skubal going for game 5 in this series means he's not going to be available till probably game 2 or 3, in which case he would then be available for game 7. So you're only going to see him twice instead of a potential 3 times if he was lined up properly in the series. I mean, I don't think Toronto's really scared of either side. I mean, Seattle's offense, it comes and goes. It's hot and it's cold. It's what it's always been in the postseason. There's times where Seattle looks like a tremendous lineup, and then there's times where it's like, oh boy, how the heck did they qualify for the postseason? So I don't think Toronto's really scared of anybody. They're able to line up their pitching. They're able to have that hitting, get a little bit of a break and stuff like that. Obviously, they'll be home against Detroit, and they'll also be home against Seattle. But I just think they don't really have a preference because I think they're just that much better than either team.
Yep, I think so as well with the Blue Jays. Is this going to be a team that you're probably going to be taking a look at quite a few overs on with regards to regardless of Tigers versus the Mariners? Because this team has just really been slugging their way to victory all throughout the postseason.
Yeah, and I'll be looking at the K-prop unders. I hit 3 of the 4. I was a little worried that Schlittler, got to make sure to say his name right, was going to get a bunch of strikeouts in that game, so I didn't play that one. But he had 2, Fried had 1, Rodon had 2, and then Heel had 2. So, like, the books keep giving us 4.5s and 5.5s, which they did last series. I'm going to be taking more unders. Toronto's been a tremendous contact team all season. They're averaging less than 4 strikeouts per game against right-handed starting pitchers so far this season. So I'll be looking more at that side of things. And certainly outs unders. I mean, Toronto's lineup is just so relentless at times that, some of these starting pitchers are just not going to last very long against this group.
Yep, that is so true as well. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what we get in the American League side of things. And when it comes to the National League side of things, I know that you were mentioning Toronto being head and shoulders better than Tigers or the Mariners, whoever comes out of that series. I feel the exact same way about the Dodgers, regardless of the Cubs or the Brewers. I think that the Dodgers should be able to coast in that series. I'm not sure how you take a look at things, but I think whoever wins that game on Saturday between the Cubs and the Brewers, they're going to be fighting very much an uphill battle.
Yeah, I said it before the postseason. I put some money down on the Dodgers to win the World Series. I know, crazy bet, but they were almost an under talked about team. It felt like they were that team that was the 3 seed, and it was like, okay, we all thought the regular season was going to be worthless. They were going to win 120 games. They were going to set all sorts of records, and of course they had injuries, and there was boredom because it's a 162 game season. And now it's like the Celtics when they had KG and Paul Pierce and all those guys. Like once you get to the postseason, everybody's serious and everybody's focused. And I feel like that's what's going on here with the Dodgers, who, all their pitching's healthy. So Glasnow looked really good. Of course, the shadows helped him. Snell has looked good, and Yamamoto didn't look as good, but we know what he's certainly capable of doing. And Roki Sasaki, as the closer, has looked tremendous. So I think everything kind of lines up nicely for the Dodgers, who can set up their pitching for this series and have the guys ready that they want, where they want. The only thing that could be an issue is, their top 3 didn't hit at all in that series against the Phillies. Now, they faced some tremendous pitching themselves, and Luzardo and Sanchez and all that stuff, so I understand why. But, they're going to have to start hitting a little bit more. Shohei's going to have to be a little bit better. But, I mean, they have a lineup deep enough that if their top 3's not hitting, 4, 5, and 6 will hit instead.
Yep, they certainly will. And with the LA Dodgers, just so much depth as well. And what do you make of the revamped bullpen? Because I think that that's really the key for the Dodgers. They had one weakness, in my opinion, coming into the postseason. The bullpen pitching had been less than amazing, but being able to get in those guys, like having Roki Sasaki coming out of the bullpen. Clayton Kershaw continues his postseason struggles, but when they had Tyler Glasnow come out, he was absolutely incredible as well, and I think that that's just such a big key for the Dodgers moving forward.
Well, and the other key is you don't have to use your bullpen if your starters go 6 every game. If you can get 6, this is why I feel like the outs market for the Dodgers pitchers is more skewed to the over, because Dave Roberts is okay with letting his guys stay out there. Like, Yamamoto probably could have been out there a little bit longer, but he wasn't pitching very well, so he took him out. But Ohtani had 6, and Snell had 6, and Glass now had 6. So, like, how do you take care of a bad bullpen? You just don't let them get out there, or you just let it go starting pitcher, closer, and then you don't have to worry about the other guys. So therefore, I feel like there's going to be some value coming up in this next series, potentially, if the books keep posting lower numbers, assuming that Dave Roberts is going to take his starters when they get into a little trouble. He has not done so for the most part this series.
Yep, and I do think that is going to be such a key to be taking a look at moving forward. And is there anything that you're going to be taking a look at a little bit more for the championship series? Now, we do this knowing that the Blue Jays are going to be there, the Dodgers are going to be there, and it's TBD at the time of this podcast as to who's going to be representing between the Tigers and the Mariners and the Brewers versus the Cubs. But is there anything that you might be taking a look at now that we're going to be getting into the best of 7 series for the ALCS, NLCS, and obviously the World Series?
I just don't see how either series goes more than 6. Whatever it is. I just feel like Toronto and LA are just that much better than their opponents. I might be looking at, they have some of those series handicaps with the over-unders for the games. I'll probably looking at some unders, maybe depending upon what the number is on the 5.5. I think some of these series could go 5. And so, I just feel like these series are just not going to be as long. And I think we're going to have a heck of a World Series potentially between Toronto and the Dodgers, where you have one really good pitching staff going up against a really good lineup. And then what happens in that other side of things. So I think that's going to be something I attack. Maybe the series handicaps as well. When the books put up like, hey, are the Dodgers going to win by 2.5 games? Or are they going to win by 1.5 games? I might look at that as well. I think I'm going to look large scale at some of the series prices, because I just think that the Dodgers and the Blue Jays are just that much better than their opponents.
Yep, and I do think that it's going to be, in the end, Blue Jays versus Dodgers in the World Series as well. And Matt, I know that you're hard at work taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know you're doing a great job on the college football front. You're doing amazing work getting set for college basketball and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, I'm in Major Matt on Twitter. Certainly, I look at markets that a lot of people don't look at, and certainly ones that Greg doesn't look at. And I know he gets a lot of questions for this sort of thing. So you can certainly tweet me at MidMajorMatt, or check out my podcast with Ariel on Mondays and Fridays. We break down a lot of props and stuff like that on the show. And certainly, as we all do, we all want to beat the books. And, whether it's college basketball, college football, NFL, Major League Baseball, I certainly have a little bit of an opinion on anything. So I'm here to help.
Absolutely. And Matt, he does an amazing job of helping. He does an incredible job just taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Matt for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for Game 5 of Brewers versus the Cubs as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Mid-Major Matt, a.k.a. Matt Josephs. Every single time he joins me, he lends amazing insights. He did so once again today, so a big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for this Game 5 between the Brewers and the Cubs as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. And well, there's only one game on the board, so it makes it very easy to be able to go in rotation order. We have TBD starters, so I sort of have things mapped out as to how I expect both of these teams to be able to play it out. So let's dive in. 927, 928. It is the Cubs against the Brewers. Again, TBD versus TBD, but the Brewers are between minus 125 to minus 138 favorites. Plus 112 to plus 117 is that number on the Cubs. 7.5 is the total. Under is between minus 115 to a minus 110. The over is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and I'm in on the over. I did set my total at a 7.8 and made the Brewers a minus 138 favorite. Now, it's really not going to change too much whether or not Shota Imanaga or Colin Ray gets a start, because I think both of these guys are going to be able to pitch in this game. I know that there has been a big debate about that, and I'm really not bullish on either of these guys. Colin Ray is in a little bit of better form, but I think that he's a worse overall pitcher. I think Imanaga is a better overall starter, but Imanaga has really not been too impressive here recently. As for Shota Imanaga, this is a man that has now given up at least 3 runs in 7 out of his last 8 appearances. During the regular season, he carried a 3.73 ERA, and the one appearance in which he didn't allow 3 runs, he actually came out of the bullpen, and he was having an opener used for him. But during the regular season, 486 fielding dependent, because he's giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. Now, Colin Ray, he's overall been able to give you a 3.95 ERA if you look at the regular season, only about 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but has given up just 1 run in 17 2/3 innings in his last 4 appearances. That includes the regular season and the postseason. He does give out about 2.5 walks per 9 innings, so that's relatively rock solid. And Imanaga, less than 2 walks per 9 innings, but with Ray just a little bit more hittable, in my opinion. Then on the flip side, I do think that for the Brewers, they're going to be utilizing Jacob Mizorowski in some sort of a bulk role. Probably like 3, maybe 4 innings, just like he did earlier in the series when he went up against the Chicago Cubs. I believe that was game number 2. He pitched 3 scoreless innings, gave up 2 walks, and that's been an issue of his, has given up over 4 walks per 9 innings, but he has been able to get nearly 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, so has been so impressive with that regard. And I do think that with the Brewers, they can do just such a good job of mixing and matching. The likes of Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby throughout the season give you a sub-3 ERA. Now, I recognize that Ashby, when he was utilized as the starter/opener, did not necessarily have the world's greatest outing there, but Trevor McGill is a guy that has been very rock solid out of this bullpen as well. Jarrett Koenig has been able to give you some good innings, and for the Chicago Cubs, Daniel Palencia has actually given you 2 wins here in terms of wins that he was credited with here in the postseason. He, Brad Keller have both been able to give you a sub-3 ERA all throughout the season. Drew Pomeranz has been rock solid. Aaron Savali, ever since he got to Chicago, has actually been able to do a solid job in long relief. They needed him earlier in the series, held down the fort when it was a little bit too little too late, but in a Cubs uniform, he's carrying an ERA of about a 2, and he knows Brewers very well, as he was a Brewer earlier in the season. But I do think that the Brewers get the job done, because this is the number 1 team in the National League in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Just so many guys are able to move the line and get on base. Christian Yelich was the lone guy on the roster that had more than 21 home runs during the regular season. He's up to 29 between the regular season and the postseason. Jackson Chourio, now 22 home runs with his 1 home run here in the postseason, and in this series is sitting at 467. Do think that that cools off a little bit. The likes of William Contreras, Bryce Terang, Yelich, who I mentioned before, Caleb Durbin, Andrew Vaughn in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only, Isaac Collins, have all been able to carry at least a 330 on base this season. And for the Cubs, his team ranks 20th in the big leagues in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Now the good news is Michael Busch has been able to get very white hot. He's been able to give you 3 home runs here in the postseason. And Seiya Suzuki had that nice series against the St. Louis Cardinals to end the regular season. He's already got a pair of home runs here in the postseason as well. It's been a little bit all or nothing. Nico Horner hitting well above a 300 ever since the All-Star break as well. But guys like Dansby Swanson, Matt Shaw, the infielders have really, other than Michael Busch, been having a little bit of a tough time in terms of being able to give you too much. They've got Moises Ballesteros, who I think is rock solid, but in the end, I do think that at home, even though there will be probably quite a few Cubs fans in attendance, the Brewers get the job done. I do like the Brewers on the money line, and I like that 7.5 over, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to mid-major Matt Josephs, for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUNet_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to on this podcast, find that 5-star review. I am with you guys every single day throughout this postseason on this podcast. Might take a day or 2 off if we do have a long lull between the Championship Series and the World Series, but every day that there's games, I have a podcast for you, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.